It had been an exceptionally hot day on Friday, August 28, 2020. By nearly midnight, 22-year-old Leslie Palicos and 25-year-old Eric Ronald pulled into the parking lot of the Longhorn Casino, located in the Whitney area, once known as East Las Vegas. The Longhorn, built in 1989, is a laid-back casino that attracts both visitors and locals seeking a less crowded, more relaxed atmosphere for gambling and entertainment. Leslie and Eric entered the casino and made their way to the Chuckwagon restaurant, passing by the slot machines and other gambling areas. Leslie, a nursing student just months away from graduation, seemed in high spirits, and Eric appeared equally interested in the evening's events. They sat down to a nice dinner, each enjoying a few drinks with their meal. There was nothing particularly unusual about the evening. Neither of them appeared drunk after the meal. After about an hour and a half, they made their way back out, once again steering clear of the casino's gambling area as many locals do. Leslie was carrying leftovers in a bag, and Eric seemed to be a familiar and trusted companion. Due to the pandemic regulations, Leslie wore a mask, though Eric had apparently forgotten his, making it easy to identify his face. The couple walked out to the parking lot, still chatting animatedly, and headed towards Eric's truck. For most, a date might have ended there. But in Las Vegas, the night was still young. The two weren't ready to call it quits. After leaving Longhorn, they drove off toward their next destination, Putter's Bar and Grill, located on East Charleston Boulevard. They arrived around 2:15 a.m., about 20 minutes after leaving Longhorn, and continued their night of drinking, though no one could confirm exactly when they left the bar. The pair then made their way to another destination, Bourbon Street Sports Bar, where they spent hours drinking beers and taking shots of tequila. After several hours of drinking, they finally decided to call it a night. They returned to Eric's home just before sunrise, around 5:30 a.m. By this time, Leslie was visibly affected by the alcohol. Eric had to help her out of the car and support her as she struggled to walk. Despite the heavy drinking, the two still seemed friendly, even affectionate, as they made their way inside. Eric led Leslie to his bedroom. The home, owned by his father, Jose Ronald, was also shared by his mother and younger sister. Jose had plans to take his wife to a church event that morning, but it was still early, and no one had fully woken up. No one in the household saw the couple enter, but soon after, something went horribly wrong. The night, which had seemed like an ordinary evening out, took a tragic and irreversible turn. By Saturday afternoon, Leslie's family grew increasingly worried. She hadn't come home from her date, and attempts to contact her were met with silence. Her mother, Aurelie Palicos, and her sister, Nellie Palicos, reached out to the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, reporting Leslie as missing. They mentioned that Leslie hadn't answered her phone or responded to any texts. The last communication Nellie had received from Leslie was a text that simply said, "I need to tell you something," but when Nellie replied, there was no further response. At the time, Metro Police still adhered to the outdated 24-hour waiting rule before declaring someone missing, a policy that law enforcement had long recognized as ineffective. The idea behind the rule was to allow time for individuals to return home after an accident or an argument. However, in today's world, with cell phones and more reliable communication, the policy was increasingly considered counterproductive. Despite this, Leslie's family was asked to wait the full 24 hours. Undeterred, the Palicos family continued their efforts to locate Leslie. They tried calling Jose Ronald for any information about Leslie's whereabouts, but he didn't answer. They even went to the Ronald home, but no one answered the door. An hour later, they returned to the house and saw Jose's wife and daughter loading furniture into a truck. They couldn't speak to them at that time. The following day, with Leslie still missing and no answers, the family contacted the police again, this time requesting an official missing persons investigation. They shared what little they... Meanwhile, the Metro Police were investigating another missing persons case. On August 31st, a report had been filed for two men, a father and son, Jose and Eric Ronald. It wasn't until September 1st that investigators connected the two cases, especially after the Palicos family named Eric as Leslie's date. A Be on the Lookout (BLL) report was issued, and officers began canvassing the area near the Ronald family's home. Investigators quickly located a security camera that overlooked the Ronald property. After obtaining the footage, they were able to trace the timeline of events and uncover something terrible. What had initially been two separate missing persons cases became one, and it quickly turned into a homicide investigation. The police now had the evidence they needed to confirm that something awful had happened. They knew Leslie had been with Eric and the places they had gone.
Prosecutors say video from the morning of August 29th shows 25-year-old Eric Rangel Ibarra helping 22-year-old Leslie Palacio, seen here alive, get out of his truck and into the house. An hour later, in video we've blurred due to its graphic nature, the same camera catches Rangel Ibarra and another man, who prosecutors believe is his father, 46-year-old Jose Rangel, dragging a lifeless body from the home and into that same truck. Minutes after, the truck drives off, leaving Rangel hosing off the walkway.
Now, both José and Eric Ronald were missing. Their families had no idea where they were, but investigators had already identified the Ronald home as a crime scene. Warrants were quickly obtained, and a forensic team began combing through the house, where they discovered signs of an attempt to clean up after a crime. It seemed as though someone had tried to remove the evidence of a murder, possibly without fully understanding the scope of what they had done. Immediately, law enforcement issued bulletins with descriptions of both men, along with details of the truck they were driving, including the license plate number. Officers went room to room through the small two-story house, documenting the evidence left behind. Detective Mitchell Dortch of the Las Vegas Metro Police would later testify before a grand jury about the significant findings. In the living room, a pair of blue latex gloves was found on the couch, along with a second set and several cleaning supplies in the adjacent dining room. In the kitchen, a mop bucket contained a stained cleaning cloth, and the mop head showed signs of dark, suspicious substances. Upstairs in Eric's bedroom, the scene appeared disturbed. The room was disheveled, and items had been moved around in a suspicious manner. The fitted sheet from the bed had been removed, and there were dark stains on the mattress. Further investigation uncovered more troubling evidence. A preferred customer card was found in the room, registered to Eric. Nearby, a shirt on a hanger, belonging to Eric, had bloodstains on it. Eric's wallet was also found, though it was missing money, and only his IDs remained inside. In the bathroom, 2 blood spatters were discovered on the floor, their source still undetermined. With the evidence mounting, arrest warrants were sworn out for both Eric and his father, José. Local media outlets quickly broadcasted the details of the case, urging the public to be on the lookout for the 2 men, showing their photos, even including images of what they might look like wearing surgical masks, a common sight due to the ongoing pandemic. Despite these efforts, the notices came too late. Though they did attract the attention of one of Eric's friends, who had some critical information to share, it seemed like Eric and his father had already vanished without a trace. The friend, who had known Eric for several years, recalled an odd encounter with him a few weeks prior. Eric had come into a restaurant where the man was eating, clearly intoxicated. Eric sat down and asked the man if they were friends and whether he would do him a favor in the future. The man, thinking Eric was drunk, humored him, but didn't think much of it. Then, on the morning of Saturday, August 29th, the man received a call from an unfamiliar number. It was Eric. Eric immediately reminded the man of his promise to help him out. What came next would change everything. Eric asked the man to bring him gasoline, explaining that he couldn't do it himself because he didn't want to be seen on camera. Eric claimed he was in Utah, about 125 miles north of Las Vegas. This request seemed strange and nonsensical, but what Eric said next was chilling. When the man questioned him, Eric bluntly replied, "Because I killed the expletive." The man, thinking it was the sick joke, didn't believe him, but Eric repeated it. "I'm serious. She's dead in the back seat of my truck right now." Terrified, the man immediately ended the call, telling Eric that he had to go pick up his daughter and couldn't help. When the man later saw the news reports about the missing persons case, he contacted the police. Meanwhile, Eric was reportedly heading back to Las Vegas, where he reconnected with his father. The two then disappeared again, seemingly vanishing without a trace. They didn't use any debit cards or phones, and there were no sightings of them. They left behind no trail, leaving their family and friends behind without any explanation. Leslie's body wasn't found until September 9th, 2020, when members of the Mopa Tribal Police and the Red Rock Search and Rescue, along with Las Vegas Metro Police, discovered her remains in Mopa Valley, about 60 miles from Las Vegas and near the Valley of Fire State Park. The body was located several miles east of Interstate 15, behind a bush in a dry wash. The heat of the desert had ravaged her body, turning it black over the days, and insects had caused significant damage as well. Her identification came from the clothes she had been wearing on her date, a striped top and blue jeans, which were found near the body. The way her clothing had been removed and the state of her body was alarming. She was found without pants, and her thong-style underwear had been put back on awkwardly, as though the thong portion had been placed at the waist instead of between the legs. Her pants were found in a nearby bush. The body was transported to the state laboratory for testing and an autopsy, but due to the intense heat, coroners were unable to determine the exact cause of death. The discovery of Leslie's body brought a tragic end to any hope that she might still be alive, and the news devastated her family and community. As for Eric and Josie, they had effectively disappeared. There were no sightings of them anywhere, and the case seemed to go cold. That is, until January 19, 2021, when, just over 3 months later, Jose Ronald turned himself in at the U.S.-Mexico border. Officials from the Santa Isidra Border Patrol near San Diego arrested him and contacted Las Vegas authorities. Jose waived his Miranda rights and agreed to be extradited back to Las Vegas. He explained that he hadn't heard from Eric in months after they had separated in Mexico. During interviews, Jose initially downplayed his involvement in the crime. However, once confronted with security camera footage from the home, he recanted and revealed more details to investigators. Jose claimed that on the morning of August 29, he had been working in the garage when he heard Eric and Leslie arrive and stumble upstairs. 30 minutes later, Eric came downstairs shirtless, dragging Leslie's body behind him on a bedsheet. Eric told his father that Leslie had overdosed and died. Jose described how his son was in a panic and started asking him what they should do with the body. Despite not seeing any obvious injuries on Leslie's body, Jose helped his son dispose of her remains, hoping to keep his wife and daughters out of it. They placed her body in the car, and Jose began spraying the gravel outside with a hose. He said that he believed Eric was going to take the body to Utah to destroy it. Afterward, Jose went to his other daughter's house for comfort. Unexpectedly, Eric showed up there as well, acting erratically and shouting that they were all in danger. Jose and Eric then fled, leaving for California and eventually crossing the border into Mexico. Eric refused to discuss the details of what had happened, only mentioning that Leslie had overdosed and that he had drunk too much. Jose struck a plea deal and pled guilty to charges of destroying evidence and being an accessory to murder. He was sentenced to 2 years in jail, though the 205 days he had already served would be counted toward the sentence. The light sentencing sparked outrage in the community, including from district attorney's office officials, who expressed their disappointment that the law didn't offer more serious penalties for such an egregious crime. Leslie's family, still grieving and frustrated, continued to push for justice. While Jose's sentence was already served, Eric remained a fugitive. Despite national media coverage and reports of him being spotted in various locations in Mexico, Eric Ronald avoided capture. The search for him continues as Leslie's family makes repeated pleas for any information that could bring closure to this case and allow Eric to face justice for what he did.
We always think about her all the time. It's not a day, find out. Everything reminds us of bring yourself in, because there's no way of hiding out anymore. You can't hide forever. And just, pay for what you did. Because we're not going to stop until we do this.
Eric Ronald remains a highly wanted man, and authorities continue to search for him. If you have any information about his whereabouts, please contact the Nevada State Police at *775-684-2644***. The truth behind what happened to Leslie Palicos that fateful night when she entered the Rommel family home may never fully be known. Was her death the result of an overdose, or did Eric murder her as he confessed to his friend? Only time will tell if justice will catch up with him, but for now, Leslie's family remains without closure, still seeking answers to the tragic loss of a young life. If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment below with your thoughts on the case, and please subscribe to the channel for more shocking true crime stories. Also, make sure to hit the notification bell so you'll never miss a new case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.